Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We're super excited. This is going to be a great topic just in time for the start of 2022 to talk about some marketing channels. A couple of things before we jump in. Make sure that you have access to your chat box so that you can chat all of the other attendees here today. And make sure that you have access to the question box for the Q&A at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, let's get started. All right, so a couple of logistics before we jump in. Just know that this webinar will be recorded. You'll get the materials later on in your inbox. You can also find the webinars and past webinars on our YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. So don't worry about taking notes or anything, it's definitely going to be recorded. Also, like I mentioned, be sure that you submit your questions for the Q&A segment at the end. We had some really great sessions for the last few webinars I've done, so definitely stick around for that. So some of you here today might already be familiar with LocaliQ. Other folks might be totally new to LocaliQ and its sister brands, and other folks might be coming from the Reach Local or the WordStream side. So a little bit about LocaliQ. It's an all-in-one marketing platform that optimizes any marketing budget for small businesses to help them find, convert, and keep customers. So that's a little bit about the LocaliQ brand. If you're still just getting to know us, be sure to find us on the web. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Definitely follow us. We post a lot of great content on there. Post a lot from our blog, which I'll be mentioning a lot today. And we also post about our webinars and upcoming events, which is awesome. And for all of the information that I covered today, we covered a lot more in depth, more than I could ever cover in an hour on our blog and on our social posts. So definitely check us out. So a little bit about me. It's great to meet you all. Again, thank you for joining. My name is Susie. I'll be your presenter today. Some of you might recognize me from the past few webinars I've done for LocaliQ and WordStream, but I'm a content marketing specialist at LocaliQ. So what I do day in and day out is write educational content on search engine marketing, SEO, PPC, social, email, everything under the sun that has to do with marketing. And how I got into this role was I actually came from the WordStream side, as I was originally a digital marketing consultant on WordStream. So I was there in the weeds of accounts, coaching clients, small businesses, agencies, all types of businesses, B2B, B2C, on their marketing best practices. So I've definitely been on both sides, and I take that knowledge and apply it to educational content that you'll see today. Fun fact about me is I'm based out of Boston. So I love the winter time. I love it up here in New England. I just came back from this weekend skiing, so super fun. Just a little fun fact. I think it's great to add a little personality to these webinars, right? All right, so I'm gonna warm you guys up and keep you on your toes, and I'm gonna throw on a pop quiz. So I want you all to type in the chat. Just do a quick check here. How are you feeling about your current marketing choices? Are you feeling solid, like you're running full speed ahead? Do you feel okay, but maybe have a few more questions? Or maybe you're totally lost, and that's totally fine. This webinar is going to meet everyone at any level that they are at, regardless if they are a small business, a multi-location business, an agency, someone who's already running or working with us. I'm going to meet you at every step of the way. But I just want to get people chatting, get people thinking about their current marketing channels. So let's see here. Got some good responses so far. Keep those responses coming in. This is awesome. Some are lost, some are feeling good. That's great. So we're going to address some of that today, but I think it's always good to just do a quick pulse check to see how you're feeling about your current channels. All right, so what I'll be covering today is I'll cover what the heck marketing channels even are. But then I'll also talk about how those tie into a cross-channel strategy and what that even is. And then we'll walk through a recommended process that I have for picking the right channels for your business. And then we'll walk through the 14 key marketing channels that we recommend for 2022. This is based on a blog post that's on our blog on LocaliQ, and it's also in a guide. So definitely check that out to get the more in-depth information. But we'll go through all 14 channels. I'll help you find the steps to figure out what's the best fit for your business. And then we'll also look at what to do next, looking ahead, now that you have a better idea, where can you go from here? All right, so what are marketing channels? In very simple terms, honestly, they're just places where you promote your business. So whether you're getting your brand out there in a mailer or a print ad, or if you're promoting your brand on social media, all of those, any place where your business can be found and is promoted is considered a marketing channel. So that's pretty much what they are in a nutshell. And then comes into play this cross-channel marketing. So to first understand cross-channel marketing, we have to take a step back and look at multi-channel marketing. To be honest, you probably won't need to stress the difference between these two too much. I've even seen industry publications cross-reference them both and use them synonymously. So just take note of that. But I think since there is so many different ways to reference these types of marketing, I think it's good to address, right? So multi-channel marketing that you might see out there, essentially that means that you're using more than one channel, which is ideal, right? You want to be getting your business out there in different places. So it can include channels online, offline, but essentially it just means that you're promoting your business in different ways across different places. Now, cross-channel marketing, the technical definition, does take it a step further. Cross-channel marketing is a mix of multi-channel marketing, but it's a little bit more cohesive. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking your different channels and you're unifying the strategy across them. So you're kind of providing a little bit more of a consistent brand experience. So a good image that I have to kind of round out the real difference here is with cross-channel marketing, our little customer here is getting a seamless experience across all the different channels that she encounters your business. A good example of the opposite with multi-channel marketing is, let's say you're working on your blog, you're working on your SEO, and you're writing these really in-depth technical articles that include a lot of jargon. And then you switch over to your social posts and they're very friendly, they're very casual, they, sound like they're written by someone totally different than the person who wrote your blogs. That's more of a multi-channel approach where you're using two different tones, two different voices, and it can confuse a customer. So that's why we kind of recommend that cross-channel approach to really maintain that brand consistency. Again, not a huge difference here, and you might see, references to one and not the other. So really, I wouldn't stress it, but I felt like it needed to be addressed because I know folks definitely get confused. It's not a super big deal, whatever you call it, as long as you're marketing your business on multiple channels, and I'll get into that next. So on the topic of channels, a constant question I get from folks is, how many channels should I use? How many are the right amount? Maybe I'm just one person running all of my marketing for my small business. Maybe I'm an agency dealing with channels for all these different clients, or, I have many different locations, whatever end of the spectrum you're at. A lot of people wonder, like, how much is too much? How much is just right? Too little? So you're probably going to hate me for this, but I will admit there is no one size fits all approach. There is no right or wrong answer, but I'll help walk through how you can know what is the right amount for your business, because it is going to be unique. But what I will say is, with a cross-channel approach where you're reaching all those different customers across the funnel, across the sales funnel, or across their journey, you're able to catch them every step of the way and really maintain, again, that seamless experience with that brand consistency. Again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to be sitting on some of these slides for a ton of time, but just remember, this will get recorded and you'll get all of the materials afterwards in your inbox. But first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're using that cross-channel approach and as many channels as we can to catch as many folks as we can along the way. Another great thing about cross-channel marketing is it helps you hit something that we call in marketing the rule of 7 faster. So the rule of 7 says that people need to see something at least 7 times before they retain it, before they become a customer, right? So the more channels that you have, the faster that you're hitting that rule of 7 and getting those customers. So that's just another little fun fact that I think helps play into the cross-channel marketing strategy. A couple other stats here. So again, 97% of customers believe that a great customer experience is crucial for a business's success, and customers are already looking for that consistent brand experience. So this is something your customers are already looking for. They want that seamless, that cohesive experience. You know, nobody likes to be confused by which brand they're looking at, right? So just, again, implementing that cohesive strategy across channels is really going to help you out. Another great stat here, I kind of talked about this a little bit, but again, with that brand recognition that you grow with that cross-channel marketing is really going to help boost your sales, right? So 71% of consumers say that they are more likely to buy a product or service from a brand they recognize. So it's going to be a lot harder for them to recognize your business if you're only on one channel, right? So that's another reason why cross-channel marketing is really a good fit. And the last thing I'll just touch on for cross-channel marketing is, again, that brand consistency. Huge growth in revenue when you have that brand consistency cohesively throughout your marketing channels. So cross-channel marketing is a great way to implement brand consistency because you can keep everything, you know, on the same page, in the same tone of voice, using those same fonts, same brand colors, logo, you know, simple things like that that you can implement across the board and really see that growth. So how do you know you want a cross-channel marketing strategy? How do you pick your channels? You know, where do you look? How do you know what your options are? You still probably aren't totally sure how many you want, but you know you want at least a few. So what I did was I broke it down in 5 easy steps that I've done with clients over the years to help them figure out, you know, what's the right choice for them. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is check out your current marketing. So take a step back and look at, you know, what you're currently running and what's working out. So an analysis that I really recommend, and some of you might be familiar with, is the SWOT analysis. This is super great. And essentially what you're going to do when you're assessing your current channels is saying, all right, for strengths, you know, what am I currently running on that's already converting well? What have I done in the past that has brought me in success? You know, things like that. And then you're going to shift gears into weaknesses of what channels have I tried that haven't really done well? Why haven't they done well? Or, you know, what are my competitors doing that maybe I'm not? You know, where are my resource limitations, my time, my budget, things like that. And then, of course, with opportunities, you're going to be looking at, all right, well, what are some unique value propositions that I can propose to clients or potential customers or whoever it may be that you're trying to target across channels. So looking at maybe positive coverage, media coverage of your company that you've had already, any sort of emerging products or services that you can start to promote, you know, maybe new events, things like that. And then threats, of course, is, you know, what are my competitors doing that I'm not? You know, what are my customers' attitudes like towards my current marketing channels? For example, if I'm running all print ads and really my customers are switching gears towards mobile ads maybe, then they probably aren't really favoring my print ads anymore. So there is a chance that they couldn't be as effective as if I were to change my strategy. So you know kind of what you're doing well and what you need to fix. Now you can take a step back and start setting your goals for 2022, and this will help narrow down which channels are really going to be best. So another really great analysis that some of you might have already seen that I talk about all the time, it's very popular in marketing, is the SMART goals. So pretty basic here, but essentially I'll kind of give you a real life example. Let's say you want to grow your Instagram followers. That's not really a super specific goal, right? But if I say I want to grow my Instagram followers by X amount of followers doing these 3 tactics, and I'll check in on it every week for the next 6 weeks, that's a lot more specific and a lot more achievable and a better way to hold yourself accountable. So I already touched on that a little bit with the measurable in that example, but again, just making sure that what does success look like for you? How are you going to track that? And then achievable. So a great example of this would be, you know, let's say you're running search ads and ideally you want to get at least 1 customer a day from your search ads. Well, if your average cost per click is $10, let's say, and you have a $10 daily budget, then that 1 click that you pull in a day better convert, right? And, you know, that's just, you know, a pretty simple example. And if you do have that budget, totally fine, right? We can meet you wherever you're at, and that's the great flexibility about marketing, but you just need to adjust your goals, right? And setting those smaller goals, maybe you get 1 customer a week or a month, And then as you grow those customers and grow that historical data where you can optimize, start adding more budget, you can start reaching for those higher goals. Another thing I did want to mention here is the relevancy. So this really means like, think about what you're currently promoting across your channels and what you have maybe for the year ahead. So if I'm doing a series of webinars this year, I definitely want to promote those webinars. But if I switch gears into focusing on my blogs, it's going to be kind of hard to promote my webinars just across my blog content and my SEO, right? So just making sure that any of my tactics are relevant to what's currently going on in my business. And then, of course, I did mention time bound. So making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to a time frame and scheduling that. So once you kind of have an idea of your big picture, you can start zeroing in your target audience. And I kind of think this is the funnest part. And really, it sounds silly, but think of that ideal person in your head. Like make them up, construct them, right? What do they, who are they? Where do they live? What do they do for work? How much money do they have? What are they doing day in and day out? Do they have kids? Are they older? Are they younger? Really think about that ideal person. And I think that helps you identify different opportunities. A great example, let's say I'm a B2B software business. I've gone through this with some businesses in the past of, all right, I have a software business, my ideal person maybe works a 9 to 5, maybe they work from home, so I know I can market nationally. Maybe they're pretty busy, maybe a little bit more affluent. All right, great. So I know that, they're probably working all day and I want to show my display ad to them. Well, you might say, all right, well, I want to show my software display ad on pages that relate to software, right? Makes sense. But if you think about it, those people that are working in software, those decision makers, might not necessarily be looking at articles about software all day. They're working, they're thinking about what they want to cook for dinner, they're making their weekend plans, looking at the weather, so those are actually really effective placements for a B2B situation like that, which you wouldn't necessarily think of unless you got into the mind of your target audience. So this is where the fun part where you get to finally look at your channels, right? So what I would say is list out all of the channel options, which we'll be doing today. And don't rule anything out off the bat. What I want you to do is, this is something kind of cool that I've thought of myself and have included in some of our blog content, is siloing them into these 2 buckets, right? Need to have, like definitely need to be promoting your business on that, and nice to have. So maybe after, I go through all my resources and allocate them accordingly, and I have a little extra time, a little extra budget, it would be great to also be promoting my brand on this. And that makes it a little bit more approachable. And then for each channel within those 2 buckets, be thinking out of the box. How can this channel work for my business? What can this channel do for me? Are there paid and non-paid options within each channel? And all those folks out there that maybe have very small budgets or monster budgets on either end of the spectrum, I still want you to be thinking about this, right? Because let's say you do have a big budget. Maybe that one channel that is paid and has those paid options isn't the best allocation of that big budget, and it should go towards that channel that you're maybe struggling on, right? So definitely look at that, know your budget, but don't let it limit you, because there's definitely workarounds. And then think about how you're going to execute on each channel. Either way you go, it's going to add some additional costs, right? So if I plan to execute and manage it all myself on top of running a business, that can definitely take a lot of time out of my day from running my business, or if I want to do in-house and hire someone, part-time, full-time salary, benefits, things like that, that can cost just as much. Or of course, if I want to outsource it to an agency, also has costs associated. Maybe you want to do some channels for outsource, some channels in-house, definitely have that option too. And then again, last thing you might want to think about is, what is my target audience already engaging with? What are my competitors putting out there that maybe they're looking at? It's great to maybe look at who follows your competitors and their following and things like that on social media, for example. And the last thing you'll want to do for when you pick your channels, so now you kind of have your list, you have your buckets, you probably have an idea at this point. Before you do your final rule out of any other channels, definitely be thinking about the trends. The marketing space is constantly changing, so should your strategy. So for example, I'm not obviously going to go through all of these for the sake of time, but One thing that I like to highlight here is over 40% of customers expect live chat on your website. That's definitely newer, right? So maybe we didn't always have live chat on our websites, but it's definitely more of an expectation now in 2022. Or same for search being a huge factor to start, local business searches and to influence our people online. So definitely some cool stats there. We'll go through some more. And again, you'll get the recording after. All right, so 14 marketing channels is a lot. So I did break them up. So we're gonna go through them in sections because I know it is a lot of information. You probably already feel like you got a lot of information. So I split them up by totally free, no cost channels. And then I also did a section for paid, so maybe you require a little bit of budget. And then I also did a section for channels that really could work for, a no cost or a low cost option, or could get some budget behind them depending on your needs. And then I also did some trending, so some popular channels for 2022. Oh my gosh, still early in the year, and things like that. So, all right, so let's start with the free. Everybody loves that. So of course, to start, the free go-to marketing channel is local SEO, or search engine optimization. And what this means is you're just altering your text on your website and optimizing your website to show up on search engines like Google. So for all the SMBs out there, 46% of Google searches have local intent, and that's growing. So using your local SEO, it's a free way to get on Google. Definitely no reason to not implement this. And again, just optimizing, making sure that you have that quality website experience for mobile devices, and then finding out what keywords you should be including consistently across your website. If you have trouble figuring out what keywords work for you, definitely check out this lovely free keyword tool that I featured here on the WordStream site. It can help you out to do that local SEO. Along the lines of local SEO, we have local listings and reputation management. So that's essentially making sure that your brand has listings on local sites like Yelp, Google My Business, Facebook recommendations even, and just making sure that you have up-to-date and accurate information so people can find you, making sure that you're getting recommendations and reviews, and making sure you're responding to reviews, good or bad, because people want to see that your business is present and that you care. And then lastly, on the free side, we have the lovely organic social media marketing. So of course, this is where you promote your brand across platforms like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat. So many options to fit anyone's different business goals and capacities. So that's super great. Maybe you're using some engaging media, posting some videos or some photos on some, trying things like hashtags. It's a really great way to just organically find followers outside of the SERP and find new audiences. Tons of social media users, as you can see here with that stat, and adults spend way too much time on social media on average per day, so you're definitely sure to catch your target audience on there. All right, so let's switch to the paid marketing channels. So I will admit, having some experience with the paid side of things back on the WordStream side, I'm a little biased, I love these. We'll start off with paid social ads on the topic of organic social. So again, you could put a little bit of budget behind an organic post that you already have, or go all in with a campaign. But essentially the benefit of this is you reach beyond your current followers, right? Because you can target audiences, and regardless if they follow you or not, they're gonna see that promoted post. With that helps your feed ranking inherently later. And then it also provides something a little bit different from an organic post with that clear call to action, so you can really drive those conversions. Of course, it is the leading paid content distribution method in North America right now. Over 80% of businesses are already doing paid social, so you definitely don't want to miss out on this one. And again, near and dear to my heart, we have search ads here. So some of you might know this as search engine marketing, pay-per-click, PPC, or some people just fondly refer to it as Google ads, Microsoft ads. But at the end of the day, you're tossing a little bit of money to these search engines to have your listing show as an ad at the top of the search engine results page. So let's say, I bid on the keyword roofer near me. So I say to Google, all right, Google, whenever somebody searches roofer near me, I want my ad to show. I'll give you $5 for that click. And if your bid is high enough and you win the auction, you show your ad. And then let's say I do click on your ad, you get to pay Google $5 to click. Again, that's just an example, not a reference to a realistic cost per clicks there, but just to give you an idea of how this works. It is a great complement to SEO. So if your SEO is struggling, you're not really ranking super high on the search engine results page, or you want to get more social followers, you know your ad is going to show above organic results. So, you know, they can see you and search for you on social later, or see your listing regardless, even if your organic listing is a little further down. Again, 97% of customers are using search engines to find those local businesses. So shout out to SMBs here today, or multi-location businesses across local areas. Great way to capture that local audience. So something that was a personal area of my expertise here was display ads. So display ads are catching your audience when they're not actively looking for you. So when they're outside the SERP. Those are those image ads that you might see on the side of the page or the top of the page, like we see in these examples here. So you're using those visual ads to show across things like websites, apps, games. You can show on blogs, leisure sites, really anything across the web, YouTube even. You can have those images and such on the side. Another really unique thing about display ads that's different from search is you have the ability to remarket or retarget to customers. So if they visit your website and you collect that data, you can then group them into an audience and show to them later. So it's super customizable. I mean, aside from remarketing, there's tons of different targeting options, and it does work hand in hand with search engine marketing. So again, you could be showing your ad across websites, and then they see that, maybe they don't click on it, but then they go and search for you later, and then they convert. That can still be trackable. So it's super exciting stuff there. And again, takes up a huge chunk of global advertising here at 21%. Along the same lines with display, we have OTT, or over-the-top ads. These are a little bit newer. So it stands for, of course, over-the-top streaming ads. And essentially what that means is they're video ads that go on stream networks that get connected through Wi-Fi. So things like Hulu, Netflix, Peacock, any of those video ads placed on networks like that are considered OTT ads. Functions very similarly to display, where it's super trackable and there's tons of different targeting options, so it's really, really great. And look at that growth rate there in 2021. Huge growth potential, already increased by 115% in 2021, so you definitely won't want to miss out on it in 2022. So these are the other marketing channels that really could go either way. So calling all folks on either end of the spectrum budget-wise, these could be a fit for you. So of course, to start, we have the email marketing, tried and true. Essentially, you're just using eye-catching content to drive clicks to your landing page right from your customers' inboxes or your potential customers' inboxes. It can help you connect with your audience in a little bit more of a personalized way, right? Maybe you're inserting those names into your subject lines. You know, it is a little bit more intimate hopping into those inboxes. There's tons of daily email users. A huge chunk of SMBs already are using this type of channel, so another one you won't want to miss out on. And again, there are plenty of online free tools for email marketing, or you could put a little bit of budget behind email automation and things like that. So mobile marketing, we have a really great in-depth blog on this that I wrote on the LocalIQ blog. Check it out. But it's kind of an umbrella term for essentially 4 different ways that you can approach your marketing to be mobile friendly for the mobile channels. So first and foremost, at the basic, we have optimizing your website for mobile devices. So making sure you're working with those smaller screens. Your copy is concise, it's easy to navigate. The buttons to press for your call to action are clear and easy to press on from a smartphone. You know, small things like that can really change the customer experience. A lot of folks are familiar with the SMS marketing as well, where you're sending just regular text to maybe a list of numbers, and you kind of provide them with maybe some exclusive updates or things like that. So that's another option as well. And then there's also an option, which many folks might not know, to do mobile specific ads on, you know, search engines, display, things like that, where you can set your ads to only show to mobile devices. There's also things like in-app ads or call-only ads, where they only show to mobile devices because they trigger a call to your business. And then a lot of folks already do geofencing too. So that's essentially specifying where exactly you want your ads to show, and it follows those mobile devices as they enter and exit that selected area. So a really great tactic for small businesses that want to be a little bit more selective of where they're spending their budget. You can definitely try geofencing. And a huge chunk of smartphone users here, and it really does influence purchases, as we see in that top stat where 70% of smartphone users make a purchase after using their phone to discover your business, so that's great. And then surprisingly, clicks coming from mobile devices actually cost a good chunk less than those coming from desktop. So here we have live chat. Live chat is essentially just putting those interactive chat box on your website, and they help, you know, people stay on the page. It increases your site engagement, and you can also be a little bit selective of like what you market there. So you can say, you know, point them to a certain offering, and overall 92% of customers do feel satisfied with the website experience after using live chat. So I definitely know I expect it as a consumer on websites. It just makes things easier, like if your customer is working and they don't want to get on the phone or things like that. And again, you can kind of point them in certain directions that you want them to go. And then last but definitely not least, we have our trending and new marketing channels for 2022. So we'll go through this and then go through some key takeaways and open it up to Q&A. So podcast marketing, super hot right now. 55% of the US population over age 12 listen to podcasts regularly, and that number is only climbing in light of the pandemic, of course, right? So paying for ad placements across industry-specific podcasts is one way to go, or you could also create your own podcast. So again, this is another one of those channels that could go either way budget-wise, but it is super trendy right now and constantly growing, so definitely check it out. And then, of course, we have social audio marketing. So along the same lines of audio marketing with podcasts, this has been booming in the last year. Actually, just in 2021, we saw spaces like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, which are essentially just social groups where folks can join, and there's a designated speaker and other designated listeners. So it's super cool. It would be great for, you know, if you wanted to hop on a Twitter space and talk about your business, promote your business, things like that. There's also the emergence of voice tweets that just came out this year too, to just add a little bit more personality to some of your social posts, constantly growing. And surprisingly, you know, people do favor audio as a more engaging form of content than other forms of content. So definitely check out some audio marketing options. AI marketing. So it has a huge growth rate between 2022 through 2027. And essentially what it means is using artificial intelligence or machine learning based on huge sets of data to do tasks for you in your marketing. So really this is more like an internal marketing channel that you can use to your advantage. You can use it to create content. You can use it for ad targeting. You can use it to create those website chatbots we just talked about. Automate your email marketing. It does save you time, and you can create some really cool stuff for external facing channels. Like, for example, we see in this image here where somebody is using a AI generated ad where they're reading through her little image to add on a customized lipstick swatch, which is really cool. And last, but definitely not least, influencer marketing. I think this is super hot for 2022. And I know a lot of folks hear influencer marketing and they're like, what am I going to pay Kim Kardashian $1 million for a post? But it's not like that at all. Actually, you can approach influencer marketing in a much easier way by going after micro influencers. Now, these influencers, right, might not necessarily have the same following as Kim Kardashian, but they definitely have way more of a following of your target audience, right? So we want to find those niche influencers in my specific industry or in my specific vertical that I could potentially reach out to, you know, to do a little bit of a brand promotion or a quick story or a tag like we see in this example here. A huge chunk, nearly half of consumers are relying on influencer recommendations. So this is a really great thing to try in 2022. It's pretty new. And again, with that micro-influencer approach, it does make it easy for really any size brand to try it out. All right, great. So a couple of the key takeaways before we jump into Q&A is, as you probably saw, and I know we went through a ton of channels, there's tons of options for every budget, for every size out there. So definitely don't rule out anything out and look at all your options. Don't forget those buckets of the nice to have and the need to have, and figure out what works for you. Also, if there's one thing that you do when you choose your marketing channels, please let it be the SWOT and the SMART analyses. They're super helpful, and they're a great way to assess how your current marketing is doing. So that way you can find opportunities to improve your marketing down the line. And then you'll also want to keep 2022 trends in mind. So again, while looking at your own marketing is good, looking at the industry and competitors is even better, right? So the marketing landscape is evolving, and so should your strategy. We saw a lot of trending channels already, so definitely want to make sure you keep that in mind. And then if there's one thing that you guys all take away from today that I've preached so many times pretty much at the end of all of my webinars is always have a backup plan. When you have variety through a cross-channel approach, you have the ability to kind of cover your own butt, right? Because if for whatever reason, a channel goes down, you hit your budget, your customers change their attitudes towards a certain channel, you're still promoting your business in other ways and in other channels. So definitely continue with that cross-channel approach and include that variety there, and make sure that you have those backup plans in place by using different channels. So I know that was a ton of information. So if you feel like you haven't fully gotten the chance to take advantage of all Look Like You and its unity of brands have to offer, definitely hit yes to get that personalized assessment, just to find what else is out there. Maybe you're already running some, maybe you're totally new to this, whatever you are at for level wise, we can help you out. So definitely make sure you hit yes there. We'll leave this poll open for a little bit. But for the remainder of the webinar, we have plenty of time to jump into some questions. So without further ado, I'm going to open up the question box. So someone asked for some sources. So again, just to mention, the sources are at the bottom of all of the decks. Definitely check out our blog too. There's pretty much all sourced from there, but again, it was mentioned in the deck, which you'll get the materials afterwards. Someone asked a good question here. These are a lot of questions about how to get started with a lot of these channels, so this is great. So let's see. Drew asked, what is the best way to contact influencers? Typically, private contact is not available. So this is a great question. You can definitely see if there's opportunities or routes for a warm intro, maybe through a similar brand that has done, the same thing or something like that. But at the end of the day, again, influencers have their own pretty much business based on that. So definitely just go through the classic routes of, email, things like that. You can find it on their profiles usually to get a way to contact them. Okay, so tons and tons of questions coming in. This is awesome. Keep it coming. Let's see, lots of long questions here. This is awesome. Keep them coming in. Okay, Bethany asked a great question. What are top ways to improve SEO? Great question, Bethany. So I would say SEO, for any of you out there that want to improve it, there's really two ways that you can look at it. You can look at the technical side, right? So how is my website loading? Are there any sort of like funky things going on in the back end that's throwing off the search engines? Am I getting de-indexed? Am I not indexing my new articles? Things like that. So there is that very heavy technical side, but then there's also just the keyword research side, right? So going after those high value keywords that might not necessarily be the highest volume. And I've definitely had this in my experience when working with SEO. The highest volume keywords tend to be very competitive, right? So they're great for SEO because you get all this traffic from them. But unless you have a super high domain authority, it's going to be really hard to rank for those super high difficulty keywords. So go for more of those medium volume keywords that are much easier for your brand to rank for, you'll have a much better time ranking on the SERP. So definitely go back and look at your keyword research. Of course, building those links as well and linking those keywords into your content, making sure your images are good to go too is kind of like half technical, half more just making sure your images are optimized. But those are a few starting points. So I hope that helped, Bethany. Okay, a lot of industry specific questions coming in. This is great. We do focus in on a lot of specific industries. We have some great success there. So definitely check it out. If you have a certain industry in mind, we do break down a lot of our customer success stories on our website and on our blog. So definitely check that out. We break it down by industry so you can find out more about what we've done there. Okay, Franklin asked if Google search or display ads can positively affect organic ranking. Maybe they're working with, a new site that doesn't have a ton of traction. They're kind of siloed in a way. So as it can help because if you don't have a ranking at all, right, your Google ads will help you just show at the top of the SERP if you're bidding high enough. But it's not necessarily going to look at your ads like, oh, hey, they run Google ads, so maybe I'll rank them higher in the SEO. Like the Google's automation platform doesn't necessarily look at it like that, but it doesn't mean that it's totally, off limits to try and do both. Because I do think it helps. As the more awareness you get from your Google ads, you'll get those higher searches and you can continue with those high volume keywords on Google ads and SEO. Okay, Kyle asked, how do I recommend folks find influencers? Like, where do you start? Great question. I would look first at your competitors' social media accounts. Go through their followers and who they're following and see, especially for who they're following, they're most likely following influencers within your industry. You can also look through hashtags. So if you have a few hot hashtags within your industry, search those, look at the posts that are tagged with them, and check out the profiles of the folks that post them. Some of those folks could definitely have a high enough following to be considered a micro influencer. Those are just 2 starting points. Hope that left, Kyle. Okay, let's see. Keep these questions coming in. Okay, Karen asked, are there any tools to help you learn how to effectively do Google ads? Great question, Karen. There's tons of tools out there. We have a few on the LocaliQ and WordStream websites. We have the LocaliQ Online Presence Grader. We have the WordStream's Google Ads Grader. So those are great tools to get you started with some quick pointers. We also just did a breakdown of Google Ads training courses on the WordStream blog. Search it, check it out. Definitely look at it. There's a ton of very thorough reviews of Google Ads courses that can help walk you through that. And at the end of the day, we're always here to help. We have tons of resources on Google Ads optimizations and guides. And I actually just posted a blog on the WordStream blog today for Google Ads survival guide for small businesses. So definitely check it out. All right. So let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Keep those questions coming in because we have a few more minutes, so I'll probably cover just a few more questions here. Okay, so someone asked me to explain some of the acronyms that we covered today. So again, the SWOT is analysis to understand where your weaknesses and your strengths are. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. SMART is to do those analyses on your goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And then the only other acronyms I think I covered today were search engine optimization or SEO, and then PPC or pay-per-click ads. Definitely, if you're new to those topics, check them out, things like that. All right. Okay, so a few more industry-specific questions here. Keep those questions coming. Okay, so this is a great question from Michelle. So she asked, we're just starting some new channels. They're performing well initially, but how long do we have to know if they're really going to work well in the long term? And when can we start testing? And how long would that testing phase be? So I would say a good rule of thumb, and it's going to maybe slightly vary for each channel, but give your channels, if it's new, at least minimum a month to 90 days, at least, to really see and collect the data and see how it's going to work. Because with a lot of these channels, you're dealing with platform algorithms, right? So they need to go through that learning period to really understand how to best serve your ad or how to best serve your social post. So give that some time. And then after that, once you've collected that data and get that initial channel running and you understand whether or not out of the gate it worked, you can start definitely testing, and you might want to set yourselves some limits or some based on your time and capacity and how large your account is of when you want to check in on it. So a lot of folks, I recommend checking in on some of your channels, maybe every 2 weeks. If that's not attainable for you, you could try it once a month or once every quarter, right? So having those regular check-ins will help you pace as you test. Within certain channels, there is smaller windows, right? So like, for example, with search marketing, you can usually run a test, within a 2-week to a 30-day period, ideally 30 days. And I would say that's about the same for social and for most other channels. So definitely use that as maybe a guideline. For SEO, definitely takes longer, right? To see if you're ranking on the search engine results page, it takes a while for you to get that authority for you to rank, for the page to get indexed, for the Google crawlers to understand and to rank you higher and higher. So it might be much longer for that one particular channel, but hopefully that helped answer your question. Okay, great. Keep those questions coming. We maybe have time for 1 or 2 more questions here. Okay. This is another great question from Michelle. How do you know when you tap out and get diminishing returns on a specific channel? This is a really tough question, right? It's tough to know, all right, when do I pull the plug? It can be so tempting within, that 30-day or that 90-day period to say, you know what, I'm not converting off this, I'm spending all this money and it's not doing anything for me, but you don't fully know the full picture, right? If you just are looking at straight conversions, which I wouldn't recommend, there's tons of other PPC metrics that I've definitely covered in other blogs and webinars, so check it out. But you, first of all, don't just want to focus on conversions. You want to see, all right, is it helping my brand awareness with impressions? Is it helping my website traffic with clicks? Things like that. So definitely look at that first, and don't just be looking at conversions, because that can help understand if it's worth salvaging. And when you can tap out, again, it really depends on the channel, but I would say you at least want to give it, a few months or a quarter or some time to really pick up speed. The toughest part of marketing that I say all the time is patience. It's really a funny joke, but it's true. The hardest part of it is patience and waiting for those results to come in. So great questions there. All right. Okay, another great question here. What are your thoughts about using groups like Taboola and AdScale? Again, it's really up to what best fits for your business. There is no right or wrong answer. It's more about what works for you. Some folks are thinking about opening up more paid social and paid channels. That's great to see. Oh, really great question here from Shari. Best way for virtual businesses to do local SEO. So I know some businesses on here are, maybe not local, maybe they're national, maybe they're virtual or an e-commerce business, maybe they're multi-location, things like that. SEO best practices and needing SEO as a channel still applies across the board. I did definitely, tailor this a little bit to some of those folks that might be new to those channels or might be managing those channels on their own. So that's why I mentioned local SEO. But in general, the best practices and implementing SEO are essentially still the same and definitely still necessary. Okay, great question, Shari. Okay, great. A lot of folks are optimistic about their marketing. So I did mention this a little bit with SEO from Shauna here, this question. What about content marketing, like ebooks, webinars? They didn't see that on my list. So that kind of falls in line with some of the other channels that I talked about. Those are more, those are going to help you grow and keep your customers engaged, which we can definitely help with. But they're a little bit different where you're still going to be promoting those webinars, that content like ebooks, those blogs, you're still going to be promoting them across the same channels, because marketing channels is more about business promotion more than content curation and distribution. Great question. All right, so we're almost at time here. I'll try and find one good last question here. Let's see. Okay, great question here from Sheila. What do we search for to find your blog on WordStream? I promise you, if you Google WordStream right now or WordStream blog, the blog will pop up. It's very easy to find. Definitely look at Local IQ's blog too. Just Google it. There's also the websites wordstream.com and localiq.com. You'll still get these assets afterwards where you can find us on social media too. We promote our blog across all of those content, those channels. And also, again, when you get to our blog, you're able to search for specific categories, specific industries. So there's a lot of great content on there and it's super easy to navigate. Great question. So Sierra already asked another question here. I didn't mention the importance of print or video marketing. She asked if those are outdated and that they have been successful for her. Great question. There's tons of marketing channels and they're more like sub-marketing channels in a way. There's no way I could cover all of them within an hour, right? So I talked about some of the hot trending ones for 2022 here. Yes, print is still big and video marketing is just getting bigger and bigger. I did do an in-depth blog on video marketing as well. But again, video marketing is another one of those subsets, right? Where you're creating those videos, but how are you distributing them? How are you promoting them? You're still going to be posting them on social. You're still going to be optimizing your website to get those listings up to get traffic to those videos. So definitely a great question there. And that's pretty much why I didn't mention them, because you can still implement video across those channels. Great questions here today. Thank you all so much for joining. I'll give you back a few minutes of the time. And again, thanks for joining. I hope this was helpful. Feel free to reach out to us on our website, on our blog, on our social media accounts if you have any more questions. I wish I could get to all the questions today, but for any more specific questions, definitely reach out to us and we're happy to help. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful day.